Start recording, start streaming. Hello everyone. Let's see if this shows up on Twitch correctly. There's a little bit of a delay on where I see Twitch. There it is. All right, we are up and running. All right. Hello Isaiah, how are you?
Good. How are you today?
I am good. All right, so let me set some context for everyone. Welcome to Regenerative Revolution. What we're doing is we're Twitch streaming a conversation between me, Jacki Saorsail. I'm an organizational consultant for regenerative enterprises, working with community-based organizations and entrepreneurs who want to do things in a regenerative manner. And I'm talking today with Isaiah Urth, who has some ideas for some food projects in Los Angeles, and he also has some ideas for things he wants to do elsewhere. We'll just be talking through his ideas today. It's the initial conversation, and I will be taking notes. So as the audience, you can see on your screen Isaiah's bio and a description of the projects he's working on, and also my notes, the questions that I'm going to ask, and I'll be taking notes in there so you'll be able to kind of look over my shoulder and see what's going on. There's a chat room. If you're in Twitch, you can chat with us live, and I'll be monitoring that and try to leave space to interact with the audience. Today, we're kind of getting started with this, so there's probably not going to be much of an audience, but in the future, we'll have more of a two-way conversation with the audience. There's also a questions app, which I haven't used much yet, but hopefully the audience will be able to ask questions in there and up and down vote questions. So I'll have times to pause and answer questions from the audience. And if the audience wants a copy of, wants to be able to see these notes after the fact and be more involved, I have a Patreon at patreon.com/regenerativerevolution. For as little as $3 a month, you can join the Regenerative Revolution and support my work, get backstage or background information and behind the scenes content. So that's what's going on. And today it's just an initial conversation. So we're just going to start very simply with, describe your organization or project that you're working on.
Unmute. Okay. So Earthkind is basically a movement of concerned humanists, farmers, gardeners, and community activists who are dedicated to ending food apartheid and health inequality in primarily marginalized communities. And basically, the vision is to build a coalition that will use our collective community power to drive the systematic change that we need in our food system for everyone. Mm-hmm. And this really came out of this is an idea that I wanted to do for a long time, but I was really stuck in working in tech, corporate tech, and these different technology jobs. And at the end of the day, really not feeling satisfied, not feeling like I was really contributing to humanity. And with COVID-19 and the pandemic, seeing the rise in the food costs and people in bigger cities unable to get food, standing in line forever, it just made sense now more than ever before to get this movement started, get more community gardens in the ground, and get more people educated on these issues. So.
Mm-hmm. And so is Earthkind a nonprofit?
Yes. We're fiscally sponsored for now, and working on the 501c3 whole paperwork.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so you're already working on that. Interesting. And, well, that's a question for later. That's probably enough for that question. Okay. So yeah, where are you at with it currently? Like, what's your current focus of what you're working on?
Like the current project?
Yeah, like what are you putting your time into right now?
So right now, here in LA, we are looking at, and I say we, it's a pretty small team, but growing, and it's really an open source sort of movement where anybody can jump in and contribute. So everyone's welcome. What we're working on right now is securing land, whether it's soil, grass, or concrete. Securing enough land to where we can make a sizable impact with education, moving in the soil, and begin cultivating just wherever we can.
Yeah, and this is like in LA, so urban gardening.
Absolutely, yeah. So rooftops, parking lots, just whatever we can find. So far, within just about a 1 mile radius, I've been able to find some interested neighbors and households who want to get involved and start growing more. They're interested in the concept of, getting free food in exchange for beautifying land and getting their land developed. It's not being used, so it's a win-win situation. It's just a matter of the labor and getting everything in place. We can get a lot of compost and mulch and things like that, but then we need to get it in the right place. So that's hiring, finding labor, hiring labor, a bobcat, someone who can help move it. So yeah, we're just kind of we got some soil and things delivered to expand sort of the smaller garden into a bigger project. Yeah.
Okay, I mean, so what do you have currently as far as space that you're using?
Right now, I would say it totals about maybe a third of an acre that we have dedicated between 3 different neighbors. And right now we want to get the first site up and running, which is actually, it used to be a basketball court. And so it's actually about I want to say maybe a 50, about a 50 by 50 foot space or so. And then there are 2 other slightly bigger spaces that we're looking at.
Do you hear my typing like really loud?
It's not too
Okay.
loud.
Okay.
No, I can hear it. It's faint.
Okay. Good. That's why I wanted to use the headphones, but now it's using this other microphone, so I wasn't sure.
I think you can change that.
Yeah. I tried. It wasn't showing up in the Zoom. Actually, the audience might not be hearing it as much because I think I did get this to work with the streaming software. It's just Zoom that's using the other microphone. Technology, so much fun. Cool. So how are you feeling about the project right now?
I feel very motivated, and I feel like, hey, this can help a lot of people, not only providing, beyond organic, really good, fresh local food, but also there are local food banks, in the area and surrounding community that have just had lines. The lines are just getting bigger and bigger. So I definitely feel passionate about it. Sometimes I can feel a little discouraged because as a newer organization, having to put a lot of my own resources into it to get it going, whether it's for labor or for tools or for soil, it all just kind of adds up. So that's kind of the frustrating part is wanting to do this good deed, get it done, but the hindrance is financial.
Okay. Great. Awesome. So what does regenerative mean to you?
Regenerative, to me, it basically means creating more than you're taking, basically, from the earth. So you're creating in the instance of farming or gardening, you're creating more fertility
Mhm.
than you're taking out of the land. Basically, we're giving more back into the system than we're
Mhm.
extracting from it.
Mhm. Sorry, just a second. So what training do you have in gardening that way, regenerative gardening? Do you have like permaculture experience or something else?
Yeah, actually, I've taken, it was some time ago, I took a permaculture design course, and it was done online. It was Jeff Lawton's
Oh,
course.
yeah, I've
Yeah,
seen that as a lot of content.
yes, a lot of content, and it's a
Um,
very permaculture. Obviously, is a very, regenerative approach
mhm,
to land and gardening and working symbiosis. It's symbiosis in basically everything you do. Um, so that taught me a lot. I recently also started a course. It was a foundations course for biodynamics at the Biodynamic
mhm,
Institute, and so that's been actually very exciting as well.
nice.
Is learning it, yeah, from the ground up.
Mhm.
So mhm.
Cool, cool, great. All right. I feel like you've been talking a lot and I haven't said much. Maybe now would be a time to interject and maybe check in with the audience if we have an audience. Let's see, do we have an audience? That's a good question. Looks like one, possibly. Hello, person. Feel free to chat with us, ask questions, etc. I have it open here and I'm trying to pay attention to you. So let's see. I just wanted to say that what you're doing is really similar to what I'm doing. I've got a community garden here in Norman, Oklahoma that I'm working in and doing regeneratively. And I was going to teach permaculture classes to get people out there, but then the lockdown happened. So I've been having a hard time getting people to even show up to harvest. But it's small, so I'm able to just kind of take care of it by myself. It's not a big deal. But I was very discouraged by that, and that's why I'm doing this online right now, which is probably, for the best, because it forced me to get in front of a camera, which I was avoiding.
Yeah,
But
same.
get it out there, probably a good thing. And also, what you're doing is very similar to my other client that I met with last week, and I'll be uploading that video soon. He is also doing like a community gardening or like urban like backyard and front yard gardening cooperative thing where he's
Hmm.
wanting to hire gardeners. He's already got a couple of gardeners on board that go around to different people's lawns and spend like an hour a week working on their lawns, and then they collect the food and sell it or give it to the homeowners. Like he's not sure exactly how it's going to work yet, but
Hmm.
very similar idea. He's looking at more the like creating a cooperative, a for-profit kind of thing where homeowners would hire these gardeners like as landscapers.
Hmm.
But we'll see if it aligns and maybe we can all do something similar because I thought through that whole plan myself as well. I wanted to do something similar here. I think it's a great idea, and I don't see a lot of people doing it yet. So I would love to see that actually happen, and maybe we can collectively work together to find a sustainable way to make it happen.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Um,
Yeah.
cool.
In Oregon, I was in Oregon for about 6 years,
Mm-hmm.
and that was how I really got my start in farming. I moved out there and took a job, and I was working in corporate America and had this opportunity to transfer. And I was looking for places sort of near the office, which was in Eugene.
Mm-hmm.
It was very difficult to find like everyone wanted to live in Eugene. So the realtor actually said, you know what? I have a place. It's 45 miles out. It's on 11 acres. You should check it out.
Mm-hmm.
And before I knew it, I was, on this acreage that needed management, it needed care and things. But that was how I kind of got my start with like farming and things. But I say that because when I used to go to Portland, there would be signs on people's lawns that would say "Farm my lawn."
Mm-hmm.
And if you wanted to farm their lawn, if you were a farmer or a gardener, you could actually contact them
Mm-hmm.
and just like show up, and usually it's, you donate a portion of it or something to the landowner,
Hmm.
but it's so much more beautiful than grass,
Yeah.
and it's regenerative. And I think when we look at the history, at least I think in California with like grass and things like that, um, grass used to be like the symbol of I have more than I need. And so I can put out my animals. I don't have to use this for food. I was watching this thing about, like the colonial, early colonial, like settlers and things, how it was a sign of, wealth and
Hmm.
prestige to be able to have all this acres of land, and just have it for grass,
Hmm.
and so it's actually like the opposite of regenerative.
Yeah.
And I know grass can be positive too, it
Hmm.
can, I
Well, if
mean,
you
I
had
guess you can
sheep
like,
on it.
sure, yeah,
Yeah.
that's in a way that's sustainable. that's
Uh-huh.
that's in a way that's even regenerative, I guess, if they're leaving behind their droppings
Hmm.
and it's becoming more fertile.
Hmm.
um but yeah, the historical sort of context behind
Hmm.
grass, I think, needs to
Yeah.
be like
Yeah.
uprooted,
Yeah.
and we need to turn all of that into, I guess, more nutrient
Yeah.
dense, like cover crop or
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. We have a lot of work to do because things have gotten very turned upside down. Um,
Yes.
yeah, like things that used to be, symbols of wealth or like uh, gourmet kind of things that you
Hmm.
wouldn't you eat regularly, like cake. Like cake
Hmm.
used to be like a special thing, and now it's like
Yeah.
people think it's food. People think
Yeah.
that's what they need to eat every day.
You can snap
Like
your fingers and get a cake.
exactly. It's just like people are, shoving this stuff in their mouth like it's food, and it's just like
Yeah.
no, that's like something you have as a special treat every once in a
Yeah.
while. And the same thing with grass. Like it's a
Yeah.
special thing you're supposed to have in certain like parks,
Hmm.
not on
Hmm.
everybody's front lawn. And yet like the economics have gotten so turned upside down that it's actually like cheaper to have grass, or at least people think it's cheaper to have grass
Right.
than to have a garden,
Yeah.
when
Can you
actually
imagine
the
that?
opposite is true, and actually you would be saving money if you had a garden because you would be feeding yourself. So it's like,
Exactly.
there's an economic aspect where to transfer your garden your lawn to a garden, there's an investment there. So like it
Hmm.
is true that it is expensive to get a garden started on your lawn because you're going to have
Hmm.
to change it. But we got to overcome that, and then overcome the mentality that, oh, that's more expensive. Just like health food supposedly is more expensive, or organic
Hmm.
is more expensive. It shouldn't be. The only reason it
Right.
is because there's subsidies for junk food.
Right. Hmm. Yeah.
It's the only
And
reason
then
it's
the
more
cycle
expensive.
continues.
Yeah, exactly. There's
Yeah.
subsidies for sugar, and that's the
Yeah.
only reason that organic health food is more expensive. Like sugar should be as expensive as health food,
Hmm.
but
Oh, well, yeah.
we have
If it was
this.
quantified by the health
Well, even if
that
it
it,
just wasn't subsidized by the
yeah.
government. I mean, the government subsidizes corn syrup like crazy,
Right.
and
Right.
all of the everything that goes into farming corn is subsidized.
Hmm.
So it wouldn't be that cheap to make high fructose corn syrup if our government wasn't basically paying to make our people sick. It's so
Right.
messed up. Same thing with lawns. They're just like,
Pesticides and,
yeah, exactly. And those
you
those
know,
companies that make that stuff get huge government subsidies. It's crazy. So,
yeah.
um,
These products, I really feel like these things need to be priced based on how they impact people's health and
mhm,
how they impact society as a
mhm,
whole, and like
mhm,
the soil that it takes to grow
mhm,
it in. And if somehow, I don't know if it's got to be possible, like somehow, like you say, um, high fructose corn syrup. Well, it takes, probably GMO corn
mhm,
to grow that, and what are the inputs that goes into the soil,
yeah,
and every step along the way, from seed to harvest to
mhm,
getting into a product to getting into the person's, people's bodies. And, it, if all of these sort of ingredients had like a score that
mhm,
tallied all of that, took all that into
yeah,
concern.
yeah.
I mean, high fructose corn syrup would be at like a zero, and therefore it should be priced probably the
Yeah.
highest. So
I mean, I think if we just didn't subsidize it, that would go a
true.
long way towards that. I think with the actual cost of making it was
Yeah.
there. And then on top of that, I don't know. I'm not a big proponent of like, over regulation and taxation.
Sure,
I
same.
would rather get rid of that and then just let the market determine to some extent. We could also reward like
Hmm.
regenerative farming by and making subsidies for that, making ways
Hmm.
that farmers could get paid for doing regenerative farming, which some people are working on. I mean, like
Oh
carbon
yeah.
carbon credit kind of thing, where
Hmm.
farmers are actually making more money if they do the right thing. So we're,
Love it.
we're, we're, there's people working on this, but we need more. So let's get people in here in the
Absolutely.
regenerative revolution working on this with us. Awesome. Okay.
Absolutely.
So yeah, you're talking about a nonprofit, but looking at it from kind of a business perspective. What does your organization do that sets you apart from other organizations that are doing similar work?
Um, I think the biggest thing is, well, definitely the focus on regeneratives, the focus on organics, um, on feeding the soil. So we'll never touch, a pesticide or a nutrient that's not organic, for example.
Mhm.
Um, Staying closed loop, which to me means, letting things go to seed, having a seed bank, involving community. So it's, more of a decentralized movement. And I'm really looking at a worker co-op owned sort of model where
Mhm.
everyone has ownership. I'm still doing a lot of research into it, but it definitely seems like the way that I want to go with everything.
Mhm.
Um, and definitely, I mean, a for-profit model. I think
Mhm.
it's really important because I don't, even as a nonprofit, I don't want to really focus on donations, for the majority of operationals and things like that. I hopefully it's closed loop, it's regenerative, and um, the different urban farms are able to reinvest into each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you're relying on donations isn't sustainable.
Hmm.
It's
Hmm.
not. It does. There's no loop. You have to continually put effort into going out and soliciting new donations, and yeah,
Yeah, definitely.
we got to take that financial sustainability into consideration as well. Awesome. Okay, so yeah, for your customers slash community members, like what kind of experience do you want them to have with this organization? Like, what experience do you want to give people?
Um, I envision a community where that's more conscious and
Mm-hmm.
not really connected. I think these days there's this huge push for well, we've got to have 5G, we've got to have faster wireless, and everyone's got to be so connected and everything. And I really, after 20 years in tech, for me personally, I feel like I want to be more disconnected. I felt more connected with human, humans and animals and earth and my
Mm-hmm.
food when I was more disconnected, when I was on that land and, you can wake up and it's just there's deer around, the air is clear and clean and the
Mm-hmm.
soil is fertile and you just flip it over with you know, a shovel and you chop it up and you're planting in it and you've got a garden. I mean, that to me is just um that's health. That to
Mm-hmm.
me is wealth. That's connection. And I really only felt that when I was living in Oregon. And it was a long commute to and from work, but to wake up in that and hey, the neighbor dropped by and they baked something from the U pick that they went to, and they picked a bunch of blueberries and stuff, so they're baking pies and jams and preserves, and we've got this storage of food that for the winter that's been canned. And
Mm-hmm.
um so I want to see an essence of that in Los Angeles. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
there's certain communities where that happens, or um I'm not quite sure how that could play out. but I'd love to see, communities where there's no hunger. And I know that's it's a very, very big goal, but just to be able to walk down the street and, pick, who knows, maybe we plant more fruit trees and, but yeah, more of a community where there's just no hunger, because that, to me, that it hurts to know that there's people, starving, and we have the ability to print trillions of dollars seemingly overnight, as we saw recently with the bailout,
Mm-hmm.
and nothing's really changing. I mean, there's been these efforts, great efforts, since I was younger. I mean, I've seen lots of nonprofits come and they're doing a lot of huge, positive work. But I fear that not enough is being done in this present generation to where we can say, okay, our kids are going to be fine. At least we don't have to worry about it. They can pick up the torch, and our grandkids are going to, we're not really seeing that level just yet. So that's my dream.
Awesome. And who is kind of your target market for who you're wanting to get involved immediately?
Oh,
like who's your lowest hanging fruit? Who do you want to get in there first?
I really, when I see other nonprofits working together in symbiosis, when I see also the city, recently I helped out with a community garden they were building in Compton. It was actually at a middle school who was my middle school's football rival, so that was interesting. But yeah, it was a Barack Obama Middle School, Vanguard Middle School. It was like 3 schools in one. And they had this giant football field that they weren't really using anymore. So they actually, got the soil, got everything moved in. When I see the nonprofits in the city and the community working together, I mean, a lot happened very, very quickly. So that's, I guess, my low-hanging fruit would be government, fellow nonprofits, and community members.
Okay, yeah. So you're seeing kind of other organizations as the initial people you're trying to recruit, and then, yeah. I mean, I guess I was wondering, like, do you have a focus on working with young people or a certain neighborhood? Like,
sorry. Yeah. Definitely South Central.
Okay,
South LA. Yeah, I mean, it's the goal to see every community and every human being, food secure, but I want to prioritize and focus on Black and Brown communities that have been historically, marginalized and historically food insecure. Sorry, my alarm.
And food insecure. Okay, so kind of certain neighborhoods you might want to focus on first. Okay.
Definitely.
Cool. Awesome. Okay, so what do you want this to look like eventually, as far as kind of what your organization would be managing? Like, what size would it be maybe in 10 years?
In 10 years? I mean, I would love to see just a really good team of, 15 to 20 people. Just a really solid team operating in different sort of like divisional support groups. So one for tech, one for media, one for outreach, one for design, and these different sort of groups working together for one cohesive goal.
Okay, cool. That's a good one. And then for yourself, like, what are your financial goals with this?
Financially?
Yeah, like how big are you? How much money are you wanting to bring in from this? Are you wanting to make a full-time income?
It would be it would be a dream come true if something like this could replace my technical sort of technical career. That is really when I set out a few months ago to really making this idea a reality, that was the goal. Because due to COVID and pandemic, all work just completely ceased. Like all tech projects that I was a part of, that I was applying for, that were in the pipeline, everything for the foreseeable, like 6 months at least, it's just been totally canned. So yeah, so I thought, hey, why not do something that is going to help people, especially now. So
Awesome, awesome. I just want to say hi to Gaffing Gadgets. We have someone in the chat room who said hello. Hi.
Hi.
All right. So yeah, you want to replace your income. Okay, cool. I don't really need more detail than that at this point. Okay. So who are the other stakeholders currently? Are you working with anyone else?
Currently, as far as the actual nonprofit, I actually there was a seed cooperative gardens commission. They actually started a like a seed drive to where volunteers could call in to different seed companies and solicit donations. So they actually got a big donation of seed, and they got a team together in New Jersey who broke down all the big bags of seed into smaller packs.
Nice.
And then they got it out to like different nonprofits and organizations and seed hubs throughout the country. And then we were able to further break down those seeds and get them out, to people in need, people who want to start growing, gardening. That has been like my biggest alliance so far. But I'm always looking for more. I actually started a nonprofit incubator at a organization called Mockingbird. And they actually coach you through the foundations of the nonprofit process. And yeah, and that's been really neat. And then just putting out the call in general, like to my network and on Facebook and stuff. Some people have stepped up and established a couple of regional chapters. So I'm actually working with an organization in Uganda right now, in Tororo, to do a community garden there. And we're inching it along because, just being such a new organization, working on the website, things like that. So it's, it's coming along, but it's a very slow process. So yeah, and then we've got someone in the Delta in Mississippi who's got a regional chapter. So that's always been my dream, is kind of going back to where my roots are, because I still see a lot of food insecurity and a lot of poverty there in the Delta. So one of my dreams is to have a community garden there where people are, have a deeper relationship with their food and with each other. And yeah, because there's a lot of sort of land out that way too. So
okay, cool. So what are your other stakeholders' needs and their desires, both your current ones and the people that you're probably going to be working with soon? What do you think they need?
Well, communication is definitely huge, and learning to, I say this after so long in tech, learning how to leverage tech in ways that will support, things like weekly meetings, webinars, working on, let's say there's a grant, for example, so document sharing. Technology is really, really huge with respect to all of that. So yeah, putting together those pieces, and the digital and the digital strategy, the social media, the website, those are all sort of really key things. Funding, of course, that really helps.
I see. All right. Cool. So what resources do you currently have, and what resources do you need?
Well, currently we've definitely got some land commitments, so that's a huge help because land in LA is extremely expensive, even now. Um, we've actually got there's some local soil stores, like horticulture stores that are willing to give us a bit of a discount on bagged soil, and raw nutrients. So that's very helpful. Uh, hmm. And knowledge. I mean, I've got, definitely not, I wouldn't say an expert, but I've got to, kind of know enough to get things established
If you've
and get
been through
myself
Jeff
in trouble.
Lawton's course, you know more than most people.
Yeah, it's a really good course, especially on the theory. And then, you can drill down into, practical application and stuff through talking to people and getting involved in the forums. And yeah, really good course. So yeah, I mean, in terms of resources, that's I guess I'm kind of limited right now.
Okay, so what do you need the most?
The most I would, I would say, yeah, funding is important, but also getting the digital, the whole digital like face of the brand of the nonprofit, getting that out there. So I'm maybe branding like a corporate package, with the letterhead and then, a decent logo. I mean, I really like the logo that I have, but it's it needs some work. And I would just say, more land and more resources for soil is probably really the most important couple of things, because because then I can actually really start implementing, getting things going. So
yeah, totally. Okay, cool. So what's your biggest challenge right now?
Biggest challenge I would say is probably lack of funds.
Okay.
That's probably the single biggest.
What would you use those funds for immediately?
I would definitely. It's definitely a cross between. So the LA project, getting all 3 of the sites operational, the digital stuff, getting the all the social media and the website and everything just there, and definitely the site in Uganda, at least getting the 1/3 or so, or half of the community. It's a really big plot that they got access to, so getting that plot up and running and finding all of our resources for that, like our chicken manure and cow manure, things like that, because those things still cost money. They're valuable, even in other places, because of the nutrients and stuff. So
Cool. So how much business planning have you done so far?
I would say fairly substantial. Like for different size plots, I have ideas of what to grow and approximately sort of what they would yield, and but getting it down 100%, like the numbers, they're all just projections. So
Okay, so you've got some projections for like each site specifically. Okay. And then do you have kind of a plan for the organization as a whole, as far as like being able to hire people and bring in money and that sort of thing?
Aside from like looking for grants and corporate sponsors, things like that, not really. yeah, as far as hiring, I haven't really gotten that far, just because it's so new. I've just kind of been focusing on, uh, how do we get the word out there so that people will want to just maybe get involved and, throw some volunteer time at it.
But you haven't like written a formal business plan for this organization.
Oh, no. It's in the works, but yeah, it's very early stages.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. So, do you know what you need to work on next as far as that goes, planning wise?
Planning wise, no, I feel like I'm kind of stuck with that.
Cool.
Yeah.
Great. Well, that's what I'm here for.
Yeah.
So, what we can do, continuing to work with me, would be to make a business model. So, business model is, the basic components of a business plan. I mean, people think of a business plan, they think of some, 30-page written document that you could submit to an investor or a bank or something like that. Not everyone needs that kind of narrative business plan. A business model would just be like the components of that kind of bullet pointed out. And I have a template for that that's this kind of, I don't know, I'll show it to you, but it's like boxes. I could actually bring it up and really show the audience what that looks like. Yeah, here's one. Here's the one for my business. So I'm showing the audience right now. But it's a Google Doc with sections, and I just kind of bullet pointed out the different things like market research, customer segments, value proposition, the organizational purpose and vision, everything down to, let's see, I'm just scrolling through it, your values and standards and metrics for success, revenue and expenses, financial goals, decision-making structure. So I added a lot to the typical business model canvas because I have stuff in here about your organizational structure and also the environmental, social, and economic impacts, so from a sustainability perspective and how you're going to track those. So I would be asking you a series of questions. We kind of focus on one section of this at a time, and I would take your answers, and then I would go ahead and fill this out and send it back to you. So you would have this document that could easily be converted into a business plan if you just wanted to write it out in paragraph form. It has all of the information on there.
Nice.
Yeah. So that's what I have to offer with this format here of doing these live interviews. That's what we do. If you need more help than that, I'm also available to hire for things like writing bylaws or contracts. I kind of look at it from like a piecemeal, like, okay, you need this document or a website or something. I can also build websites, and I do graphic design and stuff like that as well. But I would want to get paid for that because that's stuff that I would be doing off camera. So if you were able to raise some funds and needed that kind of help, I'm available for that as well.
Sure.
Yeah.
I like that.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, what time is it? It's 9:42 my time. We still have like 15 minutes if we wanted to talk some more. Yeah, let me think. Let's see, do we have anyone in the chat room? We have like one person. If this person wants to get involved, you're more than welcome. Yeah, at this point, like, I'm really excited about this idea of having a gardening cooperative that uses lawns and public spaces like you're talking about with that school. We could possibly get apartment complexes to sign off. Like I lived in an apartment complex in Boulder where we had this little community going because, well, it was condos, and one guy owned a bunch of condos and he was renting them to people and trying to organize them as a community. And, you know, we really wanted to have gardens out there, but, you know, it's hard working with any apartment or condominium or HOA to do stuff like that. Understandably, because when you have renters, they might leave and just leave a big mess behind, you know, just leave half-finished projects, leave materials laying all over the place, leave garden beds that just get overgrown. I can totally understand why these kinds of organizations don't want to just say, sure, go ahead, random people. Do whatever you want. No, that wouldn't be a good idea. But having a nonprofit or cooperative that's established, that has an organizational structure and you know, responsibility and employees to manage it, you know, even if it is the residents of that apartment complex or whatever that are doing the work in the garden, that would be a way to you know, get that permission to use spaces like that, to convert, you know, spaces that are currently used for grass or regular landscaping into gardens or food forests. Same thing with working with cities. You know, they have all this land. I'm sure in LA there's plenty of, you know, public space that's sitting there unused, but, you know, they don't want to just let some random kids do whatever they want. You know, you really have to have a structure to do so. So I'm excited about creating that kind of an organization that could be, you know, replicated in different locations to use these spaces.
Yeah.
Is that
definitely.
generally the direction you're wanting to go in?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I really feel like the time is now, you know, and there's other ways that the food system can be impacted. I was going to say dismantled, but you know, impacted. I was reading a statistic. It was saying, I think 30% or more of all the food that's grown, like through just the process of, you know, harvesting and getting to the distribution facilities, there's loss, and then distribution to the retailers, there's, you know, a lot more loss. So I mean, that's almost like, I mean, 30%. I mean, that's a lot.
Yeah. Like,
you know, and,
so like getting that to, are you talking about like donating it to food banks or more like composting it?
yeah, I mean, either or.
Yeah.
It could, you know, whatever was done with it, it could provide such a tremendous, you know, anything's better than it just being thrown away. You know, it could, all those nutrients and everything that could be going back into the soil and to the animals and things like that. So yeah, I mean, a lot needs to be done, but I think that the garden, you know, setting up the gardens, especially in cities and schools where, you know, it's not being used anymore, and schools are out now. I think they're not even going to open in the fall. You know, a lot of these areas are already irrigated, you know, so as long as they haven't had a lot of pesticides and, you know, things like that, they could be very, very viable, you know, excellent spaces for food.
Yeah, and I mean, you could still like build lasagna gardens on top and just let that kind of hide whatever's been underneath.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. What was I going to say? I had something in my list. So yeah, creating these organizations. Oh, the food capturing food waste. Yeah, so I've got some experience doing that. I lived in a neighborhood in Oklahoma City where my landlords, again, owned a bunch of properties in the same neighborhood, and were using some empty lots to do community gardening in. And we were getting all of the food waste from Whole Foods.
Wow.
Like all of it. And well, it wasn't like meat and cooked stuff. So we were just dumping it on the property right next to my house. And like, yeah, we had lots of like wood chips and whatnot to add to it for brown matter. But it was a little bit of a nuisance having a huge compost pile right next to my house. There were a lot of mice. You know, it's just something that I think needs to be thought about, composting in the city is challenging. And a lot of people, I mean, this was a really kind of rundown neighborhood, nobody cared, but, people don't want a big compost pile next to their house. And you got to find spaces where that works. I don't know, does LA have like a city compost facility or anything like that?
I, yeah, they do. They
Uh-huh.
do. They're big ones that are owned by the city, and then there's smaller ones where people can take like their plant matter, garden waste,
Hmm.
and dump that.
Hmm.
And what I noticed actually recently, I bought some soil. I think I had like 5 yards delivered or something, and they were saying, yeah, it's great for vegetables, but you have to there there's a lot, like structurally things need to change. There need to be like checks and balances almost every step of the way, because when I got the soil, I mean, it had like glass and
Hmm.
all kinds of foreign objects in it that you don't want in your soil, and like plastic and
Hmm.
shoelaces. And then
Hmm.
another friend of mine in Oregon purchased some compost for her community garden, and I think there were like 80 people impacted. And somewhere in the supply chain, I guess one of the cows, or the herd of cows probably, were fed this grass. It was whatever it was. There was pesticides in it that
Hmm.
they
Hmm.
don't come out. So even after the you know everything was composted
Hmm.
and broken down into perfectly good compost, it looks really good. It smells really good, but it killed like the whole community garden. It just took out. Nobody's really having that much growth this year.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, it's
Yeah.
like that's where government comes in, and advocating for policy change and things like that, because like you said, there are these subsidized industries, and there's policies in place that once they're unraveled, we can sort of start creating hopefully new things. And that's, I guess that's the benefit of having a strong team, because I don't know anything about policy,
Hmm.
policy change and advocating for things like that. But
Hmm.
we all can see that, like, things need to kind of change in this generation. We can't really wait for, my children to be 20 before we could say things need to
Yeah.
change.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
yeah.
composting on any scale is, any larger scale is difficult in that way. I mean, even at the Earth Natural Foods, where I have my community garden, the compost that we use there is from their grocery store and cafe, and it's amazing. I mean, all
Mhm.
organic food, really great compost. They send it off to a local farmer. He composts it at his property, keeps some of it, and then sends some buckets back for the community garden there. And that works pretty well. But there's still stickers and plastic, and
Mhm. It
it's
happens.
just, if I have my own compost, which I do, it's right over there.
Oh,
Can't see
nice.
my video. Yeah, I have a worm bin
Very nice.
in my living room, and I have
That's so
total
cool.
control over that. I can
Mhm.
make sure that what gets in there is what I want to compost. Um, and I wonder if with this kind of network we're creating, maybe setting people up to compost in their own backyards,
Mhm.
just their own little compost piles, that might be kind of a better general approach than trying to haul it off and do it somewhere else.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
as I was talking with my other client David, I was imagining it would be cool if we could get funding for this, where we could have some equipment like compost tumblers or just materials to build compost bins, and
Yeah.
provide them for the homeowners. They would be either leasing them or be able to do maybe a payment plan, because you want to set people up for success, and setting somebody's garden up, so that they don't have to do as much work, things like
Mhm.
soaker hoses and timers, rather than expecting them to go out there and water, 3 times a week, when they might have to go out of town,
Yeah.
and that stuff
Yeah.
is expensive to buy, especially for people in low income neighborhoods, who, don't have hundreds of dollars to drop all of a sudden.
Mm-hmm.
If they could be on like a payment plan. Kind of the way I was imagining it would be kind of like a CSA where people are paying a monthly fee and come out and garden, and they can help out as well. And there would be like classes they could go to. Maybe we would have the classes meet at different people's properties who didn't mind having people come out, and they would work. We'd have like this little workshop where we're working on their garden maybe once a week and teaching the regenerative gardening principles. So they could come to those classes, they could help out in their own garden, and then they'd get the landscaping, and then they would also get like a CSA box of food. So, once a week or so, once or twice a week, the crew would go around and harvest from all of the gardens, and they just collect it in coolers and then just leave a box of whatever, maybe focusing on the things that person doesn't have growing in their garden, so they have a variety of food, and just leave it on their porch or give it to them. And so you'd be getting landscaping and food and classes in exchange for a monthly fee.
Yeah.
It's kind
very
of like,
community oriented.
And then people who don't have space, if they're in apartments, or if they are renting and their landlord won't let them do it, then they could also be part of it. We would just have some public space that we're using, and they could come out and help their community garden kind of thing, and they'd still get the food.
Sure. Yeah, and I like the idea of obviously, subsidizing kind of works, which is why our government does it, I guess, on really big scales. But on a smaller, more regenerative scale, sort of on a each one teach one kind of thing.
That's exactly what David said.
Yeah. Like if the communities who can afford to pay, top dollar for their compost or for the program, those communities can actually subsidize the lower income communities, so that they can still
pay
have
it forward kind of thing.
Yeah, because one thing I've noticed is that a lot of times with more financial resources comes the ability to have more time to invest in things like that, whereas when you're low income, a lot of time you're just kind of trying to make ends meet. It's like, where my next meal going to come from, or can I pick up extra hours at work? And then you have an abundance of vegetables, but you don't have time to cook them all, and to harvest them all, and to pickle them, and so these sort of classes where you meet at like a community kitchen that's certified, or that's safe, and can do this massive pickling and this kimchi class or something like that, the vision is totally there.
It could be a sliding scale, and
scholarships and programs like that help me out greatly.
Well, and the benefit of doing it as a cooperative for-profit model would be that it could be a potential income source for people. So maybe somebody has one job they don't like, they could go through the classes that I was talking about. That would be a certification course in regenerative gardening, teaching specifically whatever process you're using for these gardens. You want to, maybe standardize it some, and teach people how to do it. And then once they've been through all the classes, then they could actually get hired by the cooperative to be one of the workers, and they could go out and do it. And maybe a portion of it could be work trade, and then they could get paid beyond that point.
That's awesome.
For the gardening. And then we're just mentioning commercial kitchen and processing. I have a friend, April Harrington, in Oklahoma City, who has a cooperative kitchen that she rents out by the hour to producers to come in and like pickle things or bake. They'll come in for just rent the kitchen for 3 hours to bake a batch of something that they can sell at farmers market or whatnot. So that would be a perfect kind of thing. I don't know if there's something already like that in LA. If not, create it. That's an essential resource for this kind of a network, because you have, a basket full of fruit, or a few baskets full of fruit. You don't need a full commercial kitchen full time to process that. You need to be able to rent it for 2 hours to process that. And if you have this kind of cooperative model, then people can do that and maybe sell it all through the same venues, and everybody can make a little bit of money. It could be piecemeal like that, or you could have like hourly workers doing the processing. Either way, I think that would be really great. And you can either sell that through like farmers markets or grocery stores, or just include those items in your CSA baskets that you're giving your members.
Mm-hmm.
Just you get a jar of jam along with your vegetables.
Yeah.
That would be awesome. You could also have locations where you've got like chickens and provide eggs and that sort of thing.
Yeah. Huge.
Yay.
Huge. Yeah, it's a huge piece, the commercial kitchen.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, because you can't, if you get too much of one thing, you can't use it all, or like some things like mint, what do you do with all this mint? Well, you need to dry it, you have dehydrators, you need to bag it up, and to do that safely, you need a commercial kitchen. So.
Totally.
Cool. Yay. I'm glad we're on the same page. And I have another client I'm going to be working with here in Norman who, I think is interested in doing kind of the same thing. And I wonder if we're going to eventually end up kind of combining these conversations, because they seem to be all going in the same direction. But I'll keep working with you and individually. Let's see, where you're really at, because I want to make sure that you're getting your needs met and that your organization is getting what it needs as far as like websites and whatnot. That we don't have to be part of the same organization, but we can still be developing really similar models that we could, because what we need are replicable systems, not everybody needs to reinvent the wheel to create,
exactly.
Yeah,
it's really just about getting the work done.
Yeah. And then we need people like you who are strong leaders and kind of get it to lead that in their own local communities.
Thank you.
Yeah.
My compliments to you as a strong leader. I've never been called that before, so thank you so much. Thank you.
Oh, awesome. Thank you. Awesome. So we're at 10 o'clock. Thank you so much for this conversation. This was a lot of fun. I really look forward to editing it and putting it out, sharing it with people. I'll share it with you, and you can share it with your network. Hopefully next time when we meet, we'll have some people, more people in the audience. And if
awesome.
Anybody is still watching this end of this video, thank you for watching it on YouTube or wherever you are, and please subscribe to my Patreon. And Isaiah, do you want to plug your website or wherever to send people to find out where you are and what you're doing? Yeah,
definitely. The two biggest ones that are functional right now would be Instagram. That's at UrthKynd, UrthKynd, and Facebook.com/Earthkind.
Awesome. Okay, thank you, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you. See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.